August, the month of endings. More to be explained later. Hello, and welcome to the Ponderings of Pete. I am Pete, and this is my channel where I talk about books and sci-fi, and then occasionally Ireland, maybe eventually, because you might have noticed if you are returning that this is not an Ireland vlog, sadly. That is taking more time than I anticipated, mostly because despite what appearances might appear, I'm not a professional video editor. I kind of know what I'm doing, but that's kind of it. So it's taking more work. That being said, I am working on it slowly but surely. We'll see when it gets out. Next week, its work is going to be pretty crazy. If you are new here and have not watched any of my videos before, hello. I recently went to Ireland and people have asked me for an Ireland vlog. I'm going to do it. I'm working on it. That's the context. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, all that background administrative stuff, because of course you want to see more of me. Maybe? No, not really. Why would anybody want that? Anyways, let's talk about what I have plans for this August. You know, I said it's the month of endings, and I'm actually going to be ending a bunch of different series. Not the channel. Don't think that. So I have 5 different series that I am reading the last book in, or at least planning to, in August. And a few other books as well. The first one that is not a last book, it's actually just a standalone that I'm going to talk about. Books of Jacob. This thing, it's actually upside down. I don't know if you could tell, but I do have it. I have the dust jacket off because I've been reading it. I'm not very far in it. I'm not going to show you that. I have been working on it, and I've just been a terrible buddy reader with some people, and it's fine. I need to spend some more time with it. And if you're wondering what that is about, it is a Nobel Prize winner about kind of centering around this false messiah figure. Don't exactly know the time period. Maybe early 1900s. Definitely before World War I, actually, if I think about it. Carriages, those exist. So, yeah, it's about a false prophet, or a false messiah, whatever you want to call him, named Jacob, and kind of swirls around him, and it's interesting so far. Let's talk about the first ending that I'm going to be reading. I don't know if it's going to be first. We'll see. Speaking Bones by Ken Liu. Book 4 of the Dandelion Dynasty, about the Dandelion Dynasty. I have loved every book in this series. Last book kind of slowed down a little bit, took a little bit more just like granular, personal. I don't know what to say. It's not continent spanning essentially, but it was good and I liked it. And this is the final one. Book 3 and 4 were originally one book, but they had to split them up because publishers and sometimes people just write way too much, which is a thing that writers do. At least the ones I like, evidently. I'm excited to read this. We are going to be doing a live show about this. We usually do them on Ian the Reader's channel. Should be him, read by Kyle. I don't know who else. There might be a few other people. There have been some people that have dropped out in the time being, but yeah, this just came out. I'm excited to finish this series. I think it was a perfect time to pick up this series because the last book just came out. Ken Liu is amazing. The next ending that I will be reading is Revenant Gun by Yoon-Ha Lee. I finished up The Raven Stratagem in August. Nope, that's this month, July, and it was great. I'm excited to finish this one. I have been told by Angela at Literature Science Alliance this is our favorite one, so that's cool. This is a very hard sci-fi book, and it's just, I think it's a really tight story, if that makes any sense. A lot of the world building is very, very nice. I love it. And it's done in a way that I haven't experienced that much before, but I know happens. It's built through implication sometimes, and I think the author does a very good job of getting you to assume something based on a conversation and then confirming it a few chapters later. So he eventually leads you into everything. I wasn't a big a fan of Raven Stratagem as I was the first book because it was following like basically a bad guy, a guy who was an antagonist in the first book. So I wasn't really attached to him, and there was some other weird stuff. But I'm still fascinated in this world and excited to get back to the story that I really, really liked in Nine Fox Gambit because it's super compelling and it's amazing, and you should read it because there's an undead general and a military girl who is promoted because she's good at a certain thing, and she's told basically her and this undead general are tasked with completing an impossible situation by taking back a fortress. That's about all I can tell you. But that's the first book. So, yeah, Revenant Gun. The next one, completely different, is The Ship of Destiny by Robin Hobb. Book 3 in the Live Ship Trader series, which has been fantastic. Less Kyle, but I'm glad for that, kinda. Kyle might show up in this one again. We'll see. This series poses a lot of very interesting questions about personhood, essentially, about agency, about family, about ships, and Hobb takes the whole ship as a person to a new level because you have these live ships which come to life after a number of deaths on the deck by the family, and they just come alive. And ships as people is a really interesting concept. And there's some pirates. It's about a trading family essentially that is getting onto their feet after something momentous happens to them. It's really interesting. I love the characters in these books. There might be some live shows about it at some point, because this is a read-along on Gregory LaPerch's channel, which we use a lot for read-alongs. It's on his Discord at least. And the fourth ending that I'm going to have has been a long time coming. I started reading this series over a year ago, and that is Shadows of the Apt, Seal of the Worm by Adrian Tchaikovsky. This has been a ride. The first 4 books were good. The second 4 books were great. I'm actually still in the middle of the 9th one, working on it, but it's great so far. And I've heard good things about the explosions in this ending, of just how explosive it is, how great it is. If you want to know more about Shadows of the Apt, I do have a review of the first 5 books, which will be up below, and I'll probably do another last 5 books when I finish this series. Probably just going to do a bunch of why you should read this series after this month. We'll see. But Seal of the Worm, Shadows of the Apt. What's it about? It's about a world, and it's a very unique fantasy world because it's insect based. So let's start with that. Don't shy away. It's not as bad as you think it is. There aren't giant spiders crawling everywhere. This isn't Children of Time. But the humans of this world are called Kindin because back in their distant past, they essentially communed with certain insects, and certain races of people gained affinities with those insects, and that's how their magic was born, their art. And they are able to discover these different arts. Like the wasps, they can shoot bolts of energy out of their hands as stings. The wasps, the mantises, a bunch of other different insects can fly because they have the art flight. The ants can actually read each other's minds. They have this mental telepathy link, which is really cool. It's all this other there's very insect themed magic essentially, but very few giant insects. Trust me, they exist and they come on page every once in a while, like scorpions or mantises, but they don't come on page that much. Beyond that, we basically just have World War I and World War II kind of combined. You have the Wasp Empire is invading everybody. And there's a lot of advances in technology. They learn how to fly in airplanes. They figure out how to actually, use air power. Like how it was figured out in World War II type of deal. Sort of. Not completely World War II, but they're getting there. But they figured out that air power should have been its own separate thing. Anyways, that's basically book 7. But there's also magic with a capital M type of deal that is completely different from all this art stuff. And I've been talking about this book for a while, but it's great. There's military tactics. There's some great sieges. The world is absolutely fascinating. I think that's really the biggest draw to this. The world is huge and diverse, and you see so many different cultures and so many different types of kindin, and it's great. And the history is very entwined with it because Shadows of the Apt, that's a significant phrase. Not a specific phrase, but that's significant for the series. Check this series out. It's 10 books, but it's really good and worth it. So, last series that I'm ending, I don't actually have the physical copy yet. I actually have the digital copy, but I don't necessarily always do well reading digital copies of things, but I have the physical copy coming to read that. But that is Bonds of Chaos by Zach Argyle, book 3 in the Threadlight trilogy. I was lucky enough that Zach is sending me an ARC physical copy, and I really appreciate that. I'm looking forward to it. What is this series about? Well, first of all, you got a great magic system, and you have a father who is kind of figuring out what the heck's going on with this magic system, with everything going on. He is a magic user himself, but there's some craziness going with the magic system that is different from normal society. He was originally a general in this war in his newly formed country, and there's conspiracy and all this other jazz, and then one of the other main characters woke up after being dead, and all of a sudden he can use magic. And then there was another girl that was a courier who got mixed up in a bunch of stuff, and she was from this other place. And it all coincides, and it's really centered around what's going on with this magic system. And it affects the entire world, and it's great. So, if any of that really rambling appealed to you, definitely check this series out. I'll have a series review coming out soon after I finish this. I have a bunch of series reviews that I need to get to. Again, after this month. So, really excited to finish this series. This is also great because Zach is a self-published author, and he's just doing fantastic. So, speaking of more self-published, I still have to finish the SBFBO books that for Bookborn, who happens to be his wife. The first book that I'm reading for Team Bookborn in order to see which one I really love and want to recommend to Bookborn for the finalist is The Hunter by Hannah E. Corey. This is the one definite romance that I have of the 6 books. Romance is not typically my genre, so we'll see, but is also described as a fade to black romance, which I'm a fan of because I don't need non-fade to black stuff. That's just my personal reading tastes. This particular book, is about a duchess who is going to be put into arranged marriage, but she instead goes off to this island and is taken in by a group of outlaws, it seems. And of course, there is one outlaw called the Hunter that is probably a hunk, I'm suspecting. And we'll see about how that plays out. There looks to be political intrigue as well as romance, which interests me, so we'll see. The last self-published book that I'll be reading this month is The Sickles Edge by Benjamin Knox and Toby Bennett. This one, I don't really know what to expect out of it because all I kind of get is you have a protagonist who is walking out of the wasteland and he has magic powers and he's going to save the world. That's my impression of it. So, I don't know what to expect. It'll be interesting. I don't have a physical copy because there isn't one, but I will be reading this on digitally. And the final book that I will be reading is I will be starting a reread. I haven't done a reread in a while, but it's about time. I'll be reading The Alloy of Law by Brandon Sanderson, Mistborn, Era 2, Book 1. I read this. I liked it more than a lot of people, evidently, but I guess that's an unpopular, popular opinion. It's not as bad as people say. As long as you go in with the expectation that this is not Mistborn Era 1, it's an enjoyable read. Hopefully I'm going to do a little bit more Brandon Sanderson Mistborn content as I'm rereading Era 2 up to the release of The Lost Metal in November. So, excitement. And the last book, which I actually technically still have to buy, is a buddy read that popped up with Overly Average Ben and Grace Dion on their server, A Court of Ben and Grace. We're going to be reading Going Postal by Terry Pratchett. This is kind of, I wouldn't say a random one, but this is Moist Fawn Lipwig #1, which will be interesting. I read like the first chapter of this back in the day. Back when I was in college, this popped up as a book to read for some odd reason in the middle of Discworld. And I started reading it and I was like, oh, this is really cool. So, Going Postal, crazy metaphors, something about a post office. It's Terry Pratchett. What's not to love? And that's all, folks. That's all I'm going to be reading this month. Maybe less, maybe more. We'll see. Probably less because the entire week is first week is taken up. But we'll see. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great, wonderful day. Get some rest and stay out of the heat if you are in one of the hot zones, which I am. So I'm going to take off this flannel immediately because it's kind of warm. So, bye.